till the sun came up and have some better lighting, but we're just going to go with what we got. Because I think the message sometimes is more important than the video. So just spent a couple days back in Billings again. Well, yeah, all 2 days. I got in there Sunday morning, unloaded, got my truck serviced, put in some new dome lights. Those are kind of cool. They light up white as well. Let's see if I can get this one up here, show you. So, yeah, those are kind of cool. One piece at a time, guys, one piece at a time. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit later on in the video, but the first thing I really want to talk about, and it's getting to be a huge problem, and that's guys parking on off-ramps. Now, it's been a problem for decades. This isn't anything new. I know guys for years that would pull off on a ramp, take a nap, and get going. I think in my entire career, I've probably done that less than half a dozen times. One of them, actually, one of the videos, there's a guy that saw me down in Florida, down by Plant City, at the end of the ramp and rest area, that I was tired. There was nowhere else to park. That's where I ended up at. And I hate that. I really, really, really hate parking on ramps, especially off ramps. And here's why with off ramp. You've got people exiting the freeway at freeway speeds onto the ramp. And if they're not paying attention, they're going to hit you. And I can tell you right now, every lawyer in the country would love to have that case. Because it's your fault, because you were parked in an area that's not a designated safe parking area. So that's danger number one. Danger number two is when you're getting in and out of your truck, moving around. Now, I know there are so many guys out there that don't do pre-trip inspections before they go anywhere, but if you've been parked for 10 hours, you really need to get out and look your truck over. So if you're getting out and looking your truck over at an off-ramp, you woke up at some point where there's a lot of heavy traffic, you run the risk of getting run over yourself. Unsafe, man. Just unsafe all the way around. So that's something to try to avoid. And I've said this time and time again. Everybody always tells you, oh, plan your trips out better so you don't run out of hours at that point. A few weeks ago, man, I went 200 miles looking for a place to park. And ended up at the customer I was delivering at. Fortunately, it was a customer where they allow you to park there, and as long as you're out towards the back of their staging area, they really don't care. You could roll in there and park and leave and never check in with them, and they wouldn't even notice. So, you know, just one of those things to kind of keep in mind. And nobody wants to stop their day 350, 400 miles short what they need to do just because they think they won't find a parking spot down the road. That screws up your whole week. So the e-logs have created a lot more of a problem with this, just simply because of not being able to get into a place, fix your logbook, make it look right, be safe, and still be compliant on paper. Now, I'm not advocating cheating on your logs. We used to do it quite a bit. We falsified our logs all the time. And if you think for 2 seconds there's guys out there not falsifying even with e-logs, you're fooling yourself. There's a lot of guys that know a lot of tricks to get around the e-log stuff. I'm not that smart. So, I don't do it. I think in all reality, everybody should try as hard as they can to be compliant. But the problem with it is, it's like, you know, being a manager, I was in charge of a warehouse and then a shop, and OSHA always there, you know, not there checking, but the requirements. And there is a point where you can get so safety oriented that you completely ruin productivity and not be able to maintain the work environment and keep things flowing like you should. Like out here on the road, we're only productive when we're rolling, loading, unloading, fueling, sleeping, taking a shower. All that other stuff is non-productive. You're not producing anything at that point. You're only producing when you're rolling down the road. Even if you're paid by the hour, that truck is not being productive if it's sitting still. And where we've come to now is a point where the truck down there on the ramp has an ABS light. That's pretty obvious. Sorry. I just notice stuff like that quite frequently. But that's where the E-logs are a problem, in my opinion, and in a lot of guys' opinions. It's not just me. It's pretty much the entire industry at this point, because even the companies, the big companies, are going, what do? We've got to hire twice as many drivers, try to keep them satisfied pay-wise, keep them satisfied with decent equipment, and because we have more trucks on the road, now we have less freight. So the rates are lower. It was a solution to a problem that we didn't really have. You can go back and check records. Late 90s, early 2000s, our safety ratings were getting better and better and better and better. And the crash rate per 1,000 miles or 100,000 miles was dropping significantly. And then technology kicked in and they decided to revamp the hours of service rules. And then we started looking after that at adaptive cruise with all the radar sensors, the VORAD. VORAD, I believe, was the first one that came out, let you know what's in front of you and beside you. Oh, man. And then the automatic onboard recording devices, which those have been around for a long time. When I worked for Peroni Produce, we had those in our trucks. They did that more to monitor truck speed and state line crossings than they did anything else. And we had to manually punch in a code on our little green box up on the dash, and we had to punch in a numeric code for each state when we crossed the state line. And I'll tell you right now, that was all relying on the driver, and a lot of drivers didn't do it. So, yeah, it always ended up being a mess for management. Not that at that time I really cared, but anyway, you know, now we've got E-logs keeping track of every single thing we do. And a whole industry full of people that, one, are petrified of going over their hours, two, are always trying to get ahead of that clock, even though in my opinion that clock is freaking useless. It's pointless, it's dumb, okay? Your body should be your determining factor of how you run, not that clock pushing you to drive faster, to drive fast in construction zones, to pass when you shouldn't be passing, to drive too fast through parking lots, or too slow. You know, you get the guy doing the E-log creep that's doing like a half a mile an hour through the parking lot when you're trying to leave. That's annoying as crap. That's just as annoying as guys speeding through parking lots, in my mind. You know, I mean, there's just a whole plethora of things that this device has caused that are not good. And the government is really, really good at coming up with a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. And I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist with that. I think they do this so that they can create a problem to make it look like they're doing something. But the problem with it always is, the issue always is, they create a solution to a problem that didn't exist, and then the problem that arises from it requires a new solution. And that new solution never fixes the issue that they created. It's a vicious cycle. You don't believe me? Look at welfare, look at all the social help systems. They were designed to give people a leg up, not a handout. And now we're working on 4th generation welfare recipients in this world, in this country, that have never worked a day in their life. They've just lived off of state assistance. And that's sad, man. I mean, because as people, we want to do things. We want to be creative. We want to be productive. We want to be accepted by outsiders. We want to be accepted by society. And I know this is getting a little philosophical for old guy here, but just bear with me. That's where a lot of the problems, even in the trucking industry, arise now. We have a whole lot of guys that are making really, really good money for not doing very much. And they end up sitting around, they get bored, and they bang on the industry how bad it is. And I don't blame them. What's the solution, old guy? One of the first things we need to do, and this is really going to tick a lot of my liberal friends off, and probably some of my viewers that aren't from the United States, if I have some here. Everybody that's here on a provisional license, on a green card, on a work visa, needs to have their license taken away. Reevaluated to make sure that A, they can read, write, and speak the English language. B, they understand the regulations fully. And C, that they actually know how to drive their truck. There is not a driver out there. Sorry, my phone just lit up. I got a car I needed to move out of Georgia over to Montana, and I put in a deal for freight quotes, and my phone has not stopped blowing up from the same people, even with blocks on it. So that's what's going on here. Anyway, I see a real problem with, and I love these guys, don't get me wrong, I don't hate anybody. I don't necessarily love them, but I don't hate them either. I want everybody to have an opportunity that comes to this country to make something of themselves. But when you see guys out there who cannot communicate with anybody except somebody from their home country that speaks their native language, that's an issue. If we went to their country and could not speak their language, we would be screwed, because they are not going to change to speak English for us. Yet there is this unwritten requirement for all of the rest of us in the United States to adapt to them and what they want us to do. They came here to better their lives. They need to step up and do things the correct way. There is a lot of corruption in a lot of these foreign companies. There's a lot of corruption in American, native companies to this country. But I don't think it's as bad. You know, there's a video of a Somali driver getting a speeding ticket, and he keeps telling the cop, that small car that was in front of me. And the cop's like, there was no small car. It's not there. I never saw it. Oh, but it was there. But it was probably, it wasn't right there when he got pulled over. That, or he was all high on cod. I'm not sure. However, they say the name of that drug that they like so much. And then he proceeds to tell him, well, my truck only does 65. And he goes, I know, you were doing 65 and a 55. But my truck only does 65. See, they don't understand. It's not been explained to them. So that makes them dangerous. It makes anybody dangerous that doesn't understand the rules and regulations that you have to follow. Now, I am not a big advocate for speeding. I really am not. I run pretty typically within a few miles an hour of the speed limit 99% of the time. 95% of the time. Okay, 90% of the time. But I will tell you where I won't compromise, and that's construction zones and small towns. Construction zones, because they're active or not, there's too many obstacles and too many dangers to be bombing through there way over the posted speed limit. Now, like Montana, they get a little ridiculous. They'll slow you down to 35 miles an hour and you'll run 35 for 4 miles and never see anything but a traffic cone. But that's their way, and here's why they do it. And I've talked to some state legislature about this. I actually have a guy I used to go to church with that's a state representative here. And he said the reason they do that is, you know, when you drive 65, 70 miles an hour all day long and you slow down real quick, that momentum that's built up in your body, you want to get back to that. Your body naturally wants to get back to that speed. You feel comfortable that way. At 35, you feel like you're just barely crawling. You're not even walking speed. You're like you're rolling backwards almost. So they do that to bring you down to that speed for a length of time before you get into the actual active construction zone. So you're not trying to speed up through the construction zone just because of the momentum that's built up in your body. Okay, that's why they do that here. Other states, why they do things, sometimes I'm like, that's ridiculous, you know. But follow the speed limits in the construction zones, guys. I don't care what your stupid e-log says. You are not going to lose that much time. If you're so worried about 5 minutes, then you need to reevaluate your schedule for the day. 5 minutes will not kill you. Even 10. So you're going to take one less break for the day. Oh well. Big deal. A lot of guys out there out of an 11-hour day are only driving 9.5 hours. You got that extra hour and a half to make up for driving 5 miles, you know, driving 10, 15 miles an hour slower for 5 minutes through a construction zone. There's just no excuse. Absolutely none. Now the problem with the foreign drivers is they can't read the signs, they don't understand. They roll into the construction zone, they just think we're being idiots for driving too slow. They take advantage of that and they just go flying by. That or, you know, again, they're all high on cot and they don't know they're in a construction zone. And that's mainly a real problem with the Somalis. That's been a real issue. I got a friend of mine that's a state patrolman in Washington, out there just east, north of Spokane, and he runs into it weekly with those guys where they're all freaking jacked up on that. And he said the worst part of it is, you arrest them, take them in, somebody pays their bail, they're gone the same day. Or you spend the entire day trying to explain to them what they did wrong, and at the end of the day, they still don't understand what they did wrong. A, because they're high, and B, because they don't speak English. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's move on to small towns. Small towns. Drive slow through small towns. If you're running 2-lane road, you come into a small town, you're running 65, speed limit drops down to 45, 35, 25, do 25. Slow down, follow the speed limits. And this one just irritates me as much as tailgating. You're driving through somebody's neighborhood when you're driving through a small town. Do you appreciate people speeding through your neighborhood when your kids are playing in your front yard, walking down the street, all that stuff? Then drive freaking slow through small towns, okay? I run a lot of 2-lane road. Not so much now as I used to, but I used to run, I would say 80% of my freaking career up to the time I got out of the truck was running 2-lane roads. Just because of the places that we went and the routes that we had to take to get there. I've had guys for years, and this has always been an issue. I've had guys for years, man, we don't really need to go this slow. They'll give you 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. And my first question is, do you want to give that jackass in a minivan or SUV an extra 5 miles an hour rolling through your neighborhood when your kids are playing in the front yard, riding their bikes out the street? Well, no, then don't do that. Extend these people the same courtesy, you know, that you expect when someone's driving through your neighborhood. Slow down, guys. It's not going to kill you. It will not kill you. It will not ruin your hours of service. It will not mess up your 11 for the day. It's just, those are two things that the three things I've mentioned: the off-ramp parking, speeding through construction zones in small towns. Those are three things that I see that are still a major issue that we need to, as an industry, really address and work on fixing, because it's a major problem. All right, I'm done ranting. Now on to something completely different. Pre-trip inspections. So I got up yesterday morning, had one drop yesterday. Went and did that real quick. Was going to the tire shop. I put new steer tires on a couple weeks ago down in Florida. And this morning I went to get a set of the centering lug nuts that centered the wheel up, and to make sure it's perfectly centered on the hub, and a set of the centromatic balancers for the steers, because the place I got them put on didn't have. Well, they had them, but I was not spending $250 when I could buy them for $100, because I've got some connections with some places. But anyway, I get in there and we pull the lug nut covers off the right side, loosen the lugs up, put the centering lugs on, set the truck down. Guy torques the wheels, or torques the lug nuts. Walks around the other side, pulls the lug nut covers off. I was on the phone. He goes, "Uh-oh, dude, I just got to be the bearer of bad news all the way around again on another truck." What do you mean? And on one of the holes where the lug stud goes through, between there and the hub, was a crack. Now, where it's cracked isn't typically the kind of crack you get from pothole damage. That's usually more towards the outside of the lug holes, out to the bigger holes, what we used to call hand holes, but you can't really get a hand in them now. So, anyway, usually it's caused by somebody over-torquing the lug nuts. So I'm thinking, the lugs that I had to put on, I'm not going to say which one it was. And I noticed when the guy was putting them on, he rattled them down pretty good with the impact gun, and then put the torque wrench on them. And the one on the driver's side, I remember the torque wrench only clicking on like 2 of the lug nuts. Or, not clicking, rather. Let me rephrase that. I only remember him having to actually push down on the torque wrench on 2 lug nuts out of the 10 on the driver's side. And I thought that was a little odd that everything was right there at torque. So, I can't prove it. I'm going to try to get them to pay for it if I can. If they will, I don't know. I'm waiting for their corporate to call me back. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful out here today. Snow on the mountains. It's great. But anyway, I'm also going to turn in a warranty to Alcoa, because they've only had 164,000 miles on those wheels. I mean, they're brand new, basically. The guys should be able to get, I would think 500,000 or better. I can only think ever twice in my career of actually having to replace a wheel. And both of them were probably right around 1 million miles on them. So, yeah, that's weird to me, that would happen. So, yesterday was an expensive day. Another thing, wasn't just yesterday, it was Sunday as well. I got my truck serviced. That was all good. Everything went good there. But I had to have them order me a door for my reefer. The lower right side door on these Thermo Kings, the older, the 2017 up to about 2020 C series units, have 2 little screws that hold the door shut. And they screw into a little plate that's got kind of spring steel in there that they thread into. And they're designed that you can't over torque them and crack the panel. Well, the problem it is they do get over torqued and that little piece of steel wears out and the doors don't stay shut. You can't order those little pieces anymore. Thermo King doesn't make them. They've updated the design on that reefer, on those doors, and they've completely eliminated those parts. You can buy the plastic hinges still, but you can't buy the piece that the screw screws into. At least nowhere that I've been able to find. And so I had to buy a new door with the retrofit kit. I was coming up through Minnesota last Thursday. I was passing a guy, and I got about halfway up his trailer, and I just kind of glanced over, and I saw a flash, and I looked in the mirror, and my door swung open, hit the front of the trailer, and that panel just snapped right off about that far from the hinges. So, yep, had to buy a new reefer door. And if anybody has ever put those retrofit doors on, you'll know what I'm saying when I tell you it's a pain. It's not hard once you figure it out, but the instructions they give you, the way the drawings are drawn out, are a little bit confusing. I was a good solid hour putting that thing together yesterday. So, save myself some labor. The shop charges 2 hours to do it. So I didn't have to pay that. That was, $300 roughly. I didn't have to pay yesterday. So that was a bonus, but it made up for that with the stupid wheel. By the time it was all said and done, a little over $500 balance in a new wheel. But that draws down the importance of a pre-trip inspection, a thorough pre-trip inspection. That crack was super easy to see once we pulled the lug nut covers off. I don't have hubcaps on my front wheels, but it was super easy to see that crack when we took the lug nut covers off. So now that's going to be in the forefront of my mind every time I do a pre-trip to look at those wheels to make sure the other one isn't cracked. I had them back the lugs off and then retorque it, so I know they're all evenly torqued. The guy that does my tire work there in Billings, I trust him way more than I do anybody else. And I wouldn't have had my tires changed out on the road, except for the fact that I had a separation in the cords on my right steer tire, and it was starting to wear funny. It wasn't really bad. You try to run them out as long as you can so you don't have to spend that money any sooner. But inevitably you're going to have to spend some money at some point, right? So, but it was getting hard to hang on to the wheel. It just was shaking so bad that it was making my arms go numb. So it was time to change them out. And so that's the issue sometimes you have. These larger chains hire guys to do stuff, and they're supposed to be well trained. My experience is they have one good, really well trained tech in the shop, and everybody else is mediocre at best. But anyway, that's been my experience this last week. Some tips from me, and just kind of some little rant there, and going on about some of the cool stuff and all that. The roads are kind of crap right here. Not super bad, but not great either. Not bad enough you can't run along at the speed limit, but bad enough if you had to make a sudden move or slam on your brakes, you're probably going to jackknife and go in the ditch. So, old guy's going to slow down just a little bit here and run a little under the speed limit because that's the safe thing to do. And go back to paying attention to what I'm doing. Hey guys, thanks so much again, for supporting me, for coming on, watching my dumb videos. I appreciate it more than you know. Trying to get some more videos out. These last few weeks have been kind of tough. Got some things going on that just, make me not want to do videos. And plus we've just been busy, man. Super, super busy. So try not, I try to find time to do these, either when I'm sitting still is usually the best time. But I thought, you know what, these things are on my mind. Let's discuss them now. So that's what I did. Anyway, everybody, be safe out there. Take care. Appreciate each and every one of you for the hard work that you do. And again, for the support on my channel. It's very humbling. I really appreciate you. And keep the shiny side up, the greasy side down. We'll catch you on the flip side. See ya.